Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and we're going to work on a reel today that just came in the shop. Customers complaining it doesn't turn easily, and yeah, it doesn't. I notice it seems to have a skip in it. Now, skip usually, this one's not turning freely on free spool or that. A skip usually is a couple of different possibilities. The most common usually being that line is broken behind the spool. Particularly a line like this. This is an older line. It's possible that it's gotten in there and just causes it to wind erratically. Second problem with this sometimes is that the frame is bent or out of square. Another problem on these tends to be that there's a problem in here with a chipped tooth. So it could be any of a number of things. So let's go in and find out, and let's see if we can't repair that for the customer. So this is a Penn Long Beach 65, and the Long Beach 65 is identical mechanically to the Long Beach 60. The difference in the two being that the frame is shorter on the Long Beach 60, but other than that, everything else is pretty much the same parts, and other than the crossbars and the reel seat, which expands the frame to accommodate the longer spool. So we start by taking off the gear side plate hardware. You'll notice I'm wearing a protective glove on my hand. These older reels, you're never quite sure what's in them. So I generally make it a practice, regardless of the reel I'm doing, to use that protective glove. And I also use a parts basket. This is the bottom of a milk container. But I just like to put all the small pieces and parts in there so I know where they are when I go to reinstall. Now, I've worked on an awful lot of these reels. I know this reel inside and out. If you're unfamiliar with the reel, I suggest that you go on to the Penn website and actually mysticparts.com, which is where you can get the parts for a Penn reel. Go on there and pull the schematic, which is a burst diagram, and it'll go ahead and show you where the pieces and parts go, so that if you get stuck along the way, you can refer back there. Also, if you find a broken part in the reel, that'll give you the part number that you can go ahead and order that. So let's go see if we can find this one. Well, there is something that quite uncommon. If this was my reel, this reel would be on the Hall of Shame. Look at this. It's just totally overloaded with grease, and that's certainly not a real grease. And we've done a couple of videos on this in the past. How much grease is too much? Well, this certainly answers that question. Just look at this. It is just totally loaded. So there's no question what's causing this to skip. Bad coagulated old grease. And where we were saying that there's a problem with, excuse me, I'm coughing here, with line getting trapped. Well, instead of line, what we've got here is just a total load of grease that's impacting the ability of this spool to work properly. All right, so I guess we got a cleanup project here, and that's what we'll spend our time on this video on. We'll take it all apart. We'll make sure that this is clean. And when we go to restore it, we'll make sure that we have the right drags and the like. So you see, I started by I use a screwdriver. A lot of people have said that there's other things to use. And there is. You can use cotton swabs, rags, all kinds of things. I just am comfortable. I've been comfortable a long time with that screwdriver, so I use it. But whatever you're comfortable with, go ahead and do that. And right now I'm just toweling all of this off, and it's another reason why you see that I wear that protective glove. Now, I wish I could wear one on my right hand. I'm right-handed by nature, but I just don't have that working flexibility. So I kind of leave that off, but we've cleaned up that spool pretty well. We're going to put that spool in the bag now, or in that parts bin. Let's go ahead and take the side plate gearing off and get at all that junk that's under the cover there. So yeah, this would be a wall of shame one. I did a video a while ago, what's too much grease? Well, this clearly is it. You want to have a light coating on it, but you don't want to get anything that's going to result in overloading this thing so that the reel can't function. And that's pretty much what is happening here. The reel just plain can't function. So let's go ahead and take these apart. There's a couple of things going on here. This is the anti-reverse dog that came out. Again, if you're not familiar with this reel, that schematic is a good place to go get some information. Also, take pictures along the way as you work with the reel. That way, if you get stuck, you can go back and look on your pictures, whether it's a digital camera, your phone, whatever, and they'll give you a clue as to the sequence that these things came off, and also to how to go about putting them back together again. Again, if you got lost in there. So I'm taking the drag stack out now because this reel is just loaded with grease in all directions. Taking that little backing washer off as well, because I want to do kind of a thorough cleaning. So most of this stuff, because it is grease, I'm able to wipe as opposed to use any kind of general purpose cleaner on. If I needed a cleaner, I would use something like Purple Power. That's a good degreaser. I would use possibly a WD-40 to thin some of this out. But in this case, this is grease and it seems to be coming out okay. I'm going to pull this off. This is spinning fine, but I'm going to pull this off just because I assume that there's going to be grease under there as well. And to remove the gear sleeve, you take a pin like I have here, and you got to tap this little centering pin that they have in there out. However you can get that, and you'll see that it comes out like that. And then I grab it with a little pair of pliers. And that's there's a ridge in the bridge itself that that pin rides in. It's here, and that's what holds the gear sleeve on. But that gives me the ability to clean under this, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, now we're pretty clean there. And just because I don't know what's going on inside here, I'm just going to run a cotton swabs through there just to make sure I pick up things like that. Because generally what happens is if you have excess grease going on, the problem that you're going to have is it gets contaminated and it becomes pervasive throughout the reel. Okay, with that done, I'm going to go put that gear sleeve right back on. And actually, I'll put a little bit of grease. I'll put some new grease on that. I'm going to use a Penn Reels Precision Grease. I call it blue grease. Doesn't matter that it's Penn or any other manufacturer that's out there. Just use something that's designed for fishing reels. This stuff that's in here doesn't appear to be fishing reel grease. It's kind of a brown, thick grease. It may have been an automotive grease or some other general purpose lubricant. Those are not going to hold up generally as well as the greases that are designed for the fishing reels. So just be careful as you go to reassemble your reel or grease it, that you know you have the right grease for the right purpose there. I'm just tapping that little pin back in, and then we can kind of reverse that. We've cleaned that backing washer, so the washer can go on now. And then we have a drag stack here, so let's go take a look at what's going on with those drags. Hopefully they're in good condition. These are the older fabric drags. This happens to be the bottom of the stack here. And it looks like that pin is just a little bit proud there, so I'm going to go ahead and just try and push that through again. There we go, I think I got it that time. That should be able to get that over now. Well, I guess it's... There you go. Okay. And then we have a drag stack here that is completely frozen. So let's just go ahead and separate these. Somebody had emailed me a question the other day saying that they were getting all or nothing at all in terms of drags. This is what happens when that, if that's occurring on your reel. You've got drags that the lubrication has been pressed out of, and they've forced the drag washers to stick to the metal. And in this case, that's exactly what's happening here. Now, these washers seem to have flexibility, so I think if you wanted to reuse them, you could. In this case, I'm probably going to replace them. And what we have now is we have that residual stuff that is stuck there. And in order to make these washers function properly again, you need to get that off of the metal pieces. That's what I'm doing here with the steel wool. It's a 4-0 steel wool. It's doing plenty to take that off. If you wanted to, you could use a little bit of a metal polish or something, but then again, that's going to abrade it. And you have to make sure you have all of that polish off as you go to reinstall, because if you don't have that off, it's going to abrade the drag washers. So these drag washers are flexible. I don't need to do much there. I'm just, again, it's a matter that the grease on them has dried, and that's become the problem. So there's two things that are probably causing that skip. One of them clearly is the overage of the lubrication. The second one here is that the drags are not working properly. Okay, and then I got one more. I call this doing the dishes. You're watching me kind of clean up here, but no, this is a necessary part of real maintenance if this is what's happened here. Okay, we got that. And we're just going to finish the piece here. You can see the difference. It shines right away in terms of removing that the stuff that was catching. Okay, I'm going to use a Cal's Universal drag grease here. Again, these drag washers are flexible enough and there's enough meat on them that we can go ahead and do that without replacing them. And let me just show you the sequence that these install. Sort of a little bit like a chess match here. So what we have is we have the core metal washer on the core metal from the main gear. Then we have a fabric washer, metal washer, fabric. Then we have the keyed washer, or the one with the ears or tabs in it, that goes in the middle, then a fabric washer, and then the one up top. Okay, another reason I wear this glove, you can work the dry greases and other lubricants in. Simply put a little bit on there, wash it, rub it around, center that on the pin. We'll come back and the first metal washer goes on after that. I'm going to grab that second one, it's the middle washer there. Same idea, put a nice little coating on there and then rub it around with that gloved hand. Now the eared washer is the one that belongs in the middle, and there is an indentation in the main gear. You just have to find it. Kind of what I'm looking at the moment here. Here we go. And that'll sit just below the rim of that main gear. We'll go ahead and put that last one in. And then we'll do the cleanup on the rest of that gear side there. Okay, top one goes on. And you notice I didn't put these in a parts bucket because I knew I was going right back there. And then we have a little cap washer that goes on top of that the ferrule rides on. So that's done now. That'll go into my basket. And then let's just go ahead and finish up with the junk that's on this side plate here. Again, if this happened to be my reel, I think I would just probably take it out and call it the wall of shame, because nobody should have ever greased it like this, but it was done, and my job becomes one to undo that then. So look at this pile of gunk and junk, and you can see there's actually a track in this that was preventing that spool from functioning properly. And so just like a piece of broken line, if anything gets in there that's going to prohibit the operation of it, then that's exactly what's going to be the result. You'll have a skip in a reel, or you'll have some other malfunction. If this was holding sand, and I'm not noticing a lot of sand here, but if this was holding sand, it would have ground down the gears. There's a whole bunch of different things that could happen. In this case, all that happened was it got overpopulated with the grease and the junk, and just gotten away. I guess it must have taken time, because this grease is well dried, so it wasn't something that happened immediately, or the performance down probably just eventually eroded to the point where it all accumulated, maybe in this slot here, or somewhere else where it began to impact the performance, and the owner started to notice that the reel wasn't working properly and had that skip. Okay, I'm going to just use a little bit of WD-40 here to see if I can't get just a little bit more out of those grooves. And of course I can. You can see it on that cotton swab. So I generally use a cotton swab. It's not going to damage anything. I use paper towels, as you saw, because they're generally disposable. Cotton swab enables you to get into some tight spots, like around this side plate bearing here, and also gets you to clean up the core areas where the movement occurs. So we're in good shape there, believe it or not. So just with a little bit of elbow grease, no pun intended, we were able to get the offender out of there. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to get rid of this paper towel because it's just totally loaded with the junk. I'm going to come back in here, get that blue grease and reset it the proper way. Just a little bit on there and make sure it gets over the crown there. Okay, there's only a couple more pieces that need to be cleaned, and I'm glad you're staying with us here. The first part is to get the grease off of the yoke. And again, that'll cause the spool gear to operate ineffectively. Let's go ahead and get that done. We'll go ahead and take the new grease, put a little bit on both sides. Grab that spool gear, just checking now, making sure all the teeth are okay. I'm going to just use a little rubber wire brush here just to clean out those teeth because there is some dry grease in that. Go ahead and grab that yoke, set that up for reinstall. I'm going to grab the two springs that go underneath the yoke and work to enable the free spool release. I'm going to set them into cavities. We'll come over here and just grab the jack then. Just get the garbage off of the back of that, as well as the front. And again, a little 4/0 steel wool will shine that right up and take the junk off of it. And then to reinstall then, we have the two springs in the cavity. We have the yoke and the spool gear sit on top of those. You press down, and then you grab the jack and hook it around the little stud on the eccentric, and this is the way it should be found. Okay, so we're back to reinstall now. So we have two side plate screws for the top, two side plate screws for the bottom. I'm pulling out of my parts basket now, and you're going to notice that they're different. There's two screws that have a partial thread on them, two screws that have the full thread on them. The full thread rides below, the partial thread rides above, because they're the ones that connect into and through the springs there. So you want to make sure that you have that done correctly when you go to reinstall. And right now we're just searching my parts basket here for the little spring. I'm not finding it. There's a little spring that works with the anti-reverse dog. So even when you take precaution, sometimes you can lose the smaller parts, and that's apparently what just happened here. I'm going to clean this anti-reverse dog up, and if we can't find that one right away, I'll come back for it. I do have a spare, should it be needed, but when I went into, there it is, there's the spring right there, I'm lucky. It came out when I pulled the bridge out. So there we go with that. Sometimes you just, you don't have to be good, you just have to be lucky, right? And I'm going to grab a little file here just to run over that anti-reverse dog, just to make sure if there's anything that got pitted along the way, that it's protected. Okay, so let's install the bridge. We've rebuilt this. The drags are in okay condition. We've relubed them. You're going to start by putting that bridge through the centering hole, and you're going to turn that bridge halfway. You're going to grab a fully threaded screw, not the one that's partially threaded that belongs under the springs, and then we're going to reset that dog. The dog slides in behind the bridge, and you'll notice there's a cavity here now. There's a little cavity that sits on the angle of this and into the sidewall, and that's where that small spring, this one right here, belongs. And that's going to make the anti-reverse dog work. So you're going to take that, place it up against the dog, and then kind of wiggle your finger a little bit. Now that is a spring, it's going to shoot, so make sure that it's set properly before you release it. And you can see here, it's a little difficult to see, but that's how the spring sits for that anti-reverse dog. Now we're going to complete the rotation. That was the bottom screw on the bridge, so you just want to make sure that that bottom screw gets set. And then a partial turn here just to start it working. I don't like to tighten them down fully because there is some play in the bridge, and you need to make sure that you have all of your screws set before tightening down. Otherwise they may become misaligned. Okay, I work an X pattern on this, so I go north, south, east, west, so it goes bottom, top. And then I like to take that fully threaded screw again, put that in the bottom of that same side that I just worked the top on. Feel it get set, and then come up and do the other side with that partially threaded one that goes through that last screw. Turn it around, check that we have all 4 in there. We do, and now I can tighten them down. And I tighten them down the same way, north, south, east, west, to make sure that we're seated properly. And I can bet already that this reel is just going to turn a whole lot easier. There you go. It's operating properly. And there's no question that this reel is going to eliminate that skip that was in there. All right, and just the last piece now is just a little bit of blue grease along the jack and a little bit along the eccentric, which we couldn't do before. And then the last piece here is to just put a little bit of grease in the side plate bearing on the non-gear side. And once we do that, we can reinstall the spool. And one of the recommendations back to this owner is he's got to replace this line. This line is, I don't know, generation old maybe. And I'm going to put a little bit of, just a little bit of grease on this stud, the spool shaft here. And now we can reinstall. Okay, line up the holes, and so again, something you may not have noticed if you're just working on these the first time, there's 2 different length screws. You'll see there's a long and a short screw. The short screws belong in the reel seat. The long screws go into the side post. And again, from a balancing standpoint, I just like to do the same thing. I like to just snug one up here on the cross post, come down, put the smaller screw into the reel seat, and go up, take a longer screw back to the cross post on the other side so that we have balance here. I don't want to work kind of, in a circle around this, because you may not have the proper torque. I'm coming back to the other side now. So I just did the one on that side. We'll come back here now, get that cross post set, take the second small screw. So you have 4 long, 2 short. Second short screw goes here on the bottom in the reel seat. That's the reel seat. And then one more up top on the other one. And then when I have all of them snugged up, then I can go back and tighten them. Just like we did on the bridge screws, we'll come back and kind of go north, south, east, west kind of rotation here, just to make sure that we keep the torque equal. And again, my purpose here is to make the reel work. I'm going to tell the customer, get rid of that line because it is old line, and I thought that was the initial culprit here, this broken line. Obviously, went beyond that. And then I'm going to tell the customer as well, it would be nice for him to clean that up. In this case, it is him, my customer. It's not a generic. Okay, so just a little bit of clean on that. There's 2 sides to this star nut. One has the part number stamped in it. That goes on the back side. And there's more of a rounded finish on the star drag nut. That goes to the outside face. It'll thread either way. It's not that big a deal, but if you want to do it properly, put the part number to the back. Again, I'm just going to clean this up a little bit for them. And reinstall this. There we go. And then make sure you tighten that star nut down once you have the handle on. If you don't tighten that down, what'll happen is you'll lock it up. It'll press in when you put the nut on, the handle screw in. It'll press against this, and you won't be able to move that adjuster. Also, I've put some grease on that post. If I didn't put the grease on there, this would be a good time to take a real oil like a Real X and put a dab in there. That handle screw generally says oil on it. In this case, it does say oil. And you would remove this and put a drop of oil in there to keep that functioning properly. Okay, so we're back to tightening this down. I have a special wrench here for the handle screw. It's a little bit thicker than the one that comes with it, but the one that comes with the reel is certainly perfect, especially if you don't work on reels all the time. You can certainly use the one that comes with the reel to work on tightening that screw up. There's indentations along the way on this nut. You need to align the indentation with that set screw hole so that you can put that last screw in. If you don't align that little indentation, you won't be able to get the screw set properly. Okay, then we're going to just tighten this up and we'll give it a trial here. So we had a skip before. We got a couple of things going on here. We had the clicker on, but that certainly works a whole lot easier than it did before. I'm not noticing any skip. I still am noticing some old line. That's something that I'll have to deal with. But there you go. There's the Penn 60 problem diagnosis. It had a skip. We found out that it was because there was way too much old grease in there. We solved that by cleaning it, a lot of elbow grease on our side. Cleaned it basically with just a little bit of scraping going on.